How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Cruel Universe #1. This is an all-new EC comic. For those of you guys who don't know, Oni Press recently bought the rights to EC Comics. EC Comics was a classic anthology comic line that gave us a ton of things like Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, and Weird Science. Now, a little bit ago, they released the very first one in a long time. That was Epitaphs from the Abyss, issue #1. And that was a spin on, like, Tales from the Crypt. That was their horror book. Well, now we have Cruel Universe, a science fiction book, much more in the vein of Weird Science. And I will say, being honest, the horror book, Epitaphs from the Abyss, sucked. It was very, very bad. And I was really cautious about going into Cruel Universe. I'm like, if their other book wasn't good, what are the odds? But I opened it up, and this is so much significantly better than Epitaphs from the Abyss was. Cruel Universe is really, really good. All the stories had some sort of interesting spin on them. There were a lot of motifs that we had seen before, and a few times the endings you could kind of guess, but they all had something interesting, something unique, and something to lure you in. Like, the worst story in this book is better than the best story from Epitaphs. It's so much better. And also the theming. The first story, there's actually this one on the cover, a really good retro-futuristic feel to pull you into the book and get the right tone down. Overall, this one was just so much more enjoyable. Sometimes they were a little bit short, but I felt myself wanting more when the stories got cut off too quick. Unlike Epitaphs, where I was always just glad they were over, here I'm like, oh man, these are all really great. So yes, if you're a little worried because of how Epitaphs turned out, don't worry about that. This one came out really, really cool. There's no cheesy political stories. The art in general is way better, and it just had me engaged. You know, I'm more of a horror guy than a sci-fi guy, but I still like sci-fi, and I did really like this. And there are a few dark twists and turns in this book as well, so don't worry about that. Overall, go check this one out, it's really good. But if you want to see the stories in a little bit more specifics, let's switch up to the close-up camera. I'll show you guys some of the story and the art and talk about the stories in more specifics. No major spoilers though, so without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at Cruel Universe #1. Right off the bat, we do have the classic EC Comics big colorful band. 1 August EC logo, science coming out of the little flask there. That's pretty cool. And then on the bottom, we get a really nice painting. It has that classic retro-futuristic look, really interesting subject matter with them fighting the dinosaur there, and it accurately describes one of the stories. Even though he's wearing a different costume, this is one of the stories in here. That's really cool. Flip it to the back, we do get an ad, and we get $4.99 Teen Plus 00111 and the Oni Press logo. Cracking it open, we get Cruel Universe, Table of Contents, The Champion, Solo Shift, Drink Up, and Priceless. And then I do like we get this nice little EC drawing here. After that, let's get into the stories proper. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to take a look at some of the plot points and the art. I'll try to be avoiding the end bits though, but let's do a little bit of a look around. We open up with The Champion, which is the story from the cover, and we get to see this guy and a dinosaur, and they're in some sort of alien arena. And we get to see this dialogue across the top, and it'll be talking about how he always knew about these games for the elite, but everyone said, oh, they're willing participants. Well, turning the page, we can see that that's not exactly true, and our main character was brought in after his ship got raided, and I do like we get to see them all sitting there, and the dinosaur character just kind of looking over at this guy and thinking about how the fight will go. That's really cool. And as the story goes on, we get them talking about the culture built around the fighting. We get to see kids playing with their trading cards, and we get to see how they kind of lose their humanity as they start to fight over and over again. And overall, it's a pretty cool gladiatorial story, but I will say the ending of this one did catch me a bit off guard, and I thought it was a really, really cool way to wrap things up. It was a really fun ending there. After that, we get the story Solo Shift, and we see that there's this guy alone, and he got a message from his girlfriend saying she can't do this anymore and that she's going to break things off. Well, this is of course a terrible time for him to hear this, as he's going on a solo mission into deep space to investigate a black hole. However, he finds out that there's some other ship there that he doesn't know about. It's not on any records or anything. So he goes to investigate. And on this other ship, there is a woman who's been murdered by someone, but he doesn't know who it is since this is another solo ship and there shouldn't be anyone else on it. We do get a cool bit where he starts to investigate and see what her life was like and start to unravel this mystery. I will say once you kind of see the direction this story is going, you can figure out a large part of it, but it still is kind of cool to get, you know, this ship in the middle of nowhere and what happened here, and let's try to solve the mystery. I think this is a fun idea, and I thought the story was pretty cool as well. After that, we get the story Drink Up about this eccentric millionaire who, it turns out, is trying to stay in good shape and putting in research to figure out how to live forever. However, he gets a callback on one of his leads, and his team has found what might be the Fountain of Youth, and he wants to go over there right away. However, it's going to be a dangerous road for him, as it's right on a fault line that could collapse at any minute, but he's going to Indiana Jones's way in there and try to find the fountain. We do get a whole bunch of lore about this cave, and it really does build it up pretty well, and it does have a pretty cool ending to it. Lastly, we have the story Priceless, and we open up with this guy here who's doing bungee jumping right over a pit of lava and almost getting himself killed. He then goes back to the secret laboratory, and we find he's got a hole in his head. Turns out his job is going to be making memories, which then get extracted from his head and sold to this really rich guy so that he goes out and does the experience and the other guy remembers it, and he has no idea what he just spent his time doing. Needless to say, he's going to go on one more mission, and it's going to be an exceptionally cruel mission, and he has to wonder if he can do it. This is a really cool concept. It reminds me a little bit of Strange Days, the Catherine Bigelow movie, but done in a bit of a different way, with a different twist and a different flavor to the ending. It's something that I've not seen too terribly much of, and it was executed pretty well in the story. As you can see with that one, the art was a little bit cartoony to it, but you know what? I still think it was fine. Overall though, 4 stories, and all of them were pretty good. I mean, there was a few elements that were a little bit predictable, and a few things kind of like a few things we had seen before, but nothing too egregious, and a lot of it was super creative and really interesting. Overall, Cruel Universe just really, really outdid Epitaphs from the Abyss. I can definitely recommend it, and while I'm gonna go into issue 2 of Epitaphs really, really cautiously, I cannot wait for issue 2 of Cruel Universe. This one was great. Definitely check it out. And if you were skittish after Abyss, don't worry, this one's cool. Anyway though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my number 1's playlist, where you can find my review of Epitaphs from the Abyss number 1 as well. Anyway, have a good day. See you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.